I'm a forgetful person, so I like to make lists. Most of the time, they are innocuous, but sometimes I want others to stay out, such as my list of favorite Justin Bieber albums. How can I do that without having to resort to writing them down on paper and putting them in a safety deposit box? Access control lists, of course, or ACLs as they call them in the biz. This is B from Talk Tech, and today I'm going to introduce you to access control lists and two commands for interacting with them in Linux. Stick with me. Now, I've got a favor to ask. If you like this type of video and want to see more content like it, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell button for notifications. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it, give it a dislike if you didn't like it. Also, let me know what you liked, didn't like, or if you have any comments, questions, or concerns down in the comment section below. And don't forget those emotional outbursts. And lastly, make sure you stick around all the way to the end to catch the examples. Let's get into it. All right, so access control lists are one of the most basic means of implementing security on a system as far as files and directories are concerned. An access control list controls who has access to a file or directory and what they can do with it. Access control lists are very intertwined with Linux file permissions. So let me go ahead and give you just a brief introduction to that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the desktop. All right, let's go ahead and run an ls-tacl. And here we go. We've got one file here, test.txt. And then this is what's of most interest here to us, is these first 10 values. Now, this first value right here, it's going to have one of two things. It's either going to have nothing there, in this, which is the case in this particular situation, or it's going to have a D there, which indicates it's a directory. When it doesn't have anything, it's a file. If it has a D there, it's a directory. Now, the three values after that are going to be the user owner permissions. And we can see here we've got an R, a W, and an X. The next three are going to be the group owner permissions. And here we've only got an R. The last three are going to be all others on the system permissions. And in this case, we also only have an R. Now, we can see the three values in the user owner permissions. Now, the R stands for read, which is, as it entails, it allows you to be able to read a file. So let's go ahead and run cat, and then let's do test.txt. All right, cool. We can see the actual contents of that file, which in this case is a pretty simple script, just that says hello, that echoes hello world. I am an alien. I will probe you. All right, now the writing permission is the ability to change a file or make changes, write to it, whatever you want to call it. So that we would do vim test.txt. Go ahead and hit an enter here, and let's go ahead and get rid of the probing because we're nice aliens here. We don't want to probe anybody. All right, cool. There we go. We were able to go ahead and successfully make that. Had we not had permissions, it would have given us an error when we tried to exit and save it. The last thing is going to be to execute. And essentially what an execute means is it's the ability to run a file as a program. And that's going to be the X. And the right is the W. Let's go ahead and do a period forward test.txt. Perfect. And there we go. We can see we executed the file, the script in there. And that's how you execute, is you use the period /. Cool, right? Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into the actual commands that I was talking about in the introduction. The first one is going to be getfacl, which is going to allow us to get the file access control list. So that's going to tell us what the actual control list is on a file. Let's do test.txt. Perfect. And we've got some information here. We've got the file name, which is test.txt. We got the file owner, which is B, and we have the group owner, which is B. And then we have the user permissions, we have the group permissions, and we have the other permissions. And right now, these mirror the permissions that we had in the ls-tacl command. Yeah, so pretty much this is going to tell us what access list is set on a particular file. All right, so let's go ahead and get into making changes to access lists. And that's going to be done with the setfacl command. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start here. I'm going to start by actually just pasting in the syntax here. So the command itself is setfacl. The getfacl is get file access control list. This one is set file access control list. And then after that, you would put any options, and I'll go over a couple options here in just a minute. And then after that, you would do, in this particular case, you're going to use either a U slash a G, U or a G, or you could also do a O there for others. And U stands for user, G stands for group, and O stands for others.
And then the next field is if you want to specify a specific user name or a group name, you would specify that there. You don't have to specify anything for other. And then you would do another colon, and you would actually put in the permissions like R, W, or X, or whatever combination you wanted. And then you would put in the actual file. So let's go ahead and let's actually do something with this. Let me just get rid of this. All right, so in order to create or modify a access control list, you're going to do tac m. All right, and so we've got another user on the system. His name is Gizmo, and we can see up here that others only have the write permission, but we want to go ahead and give Gizmo execution permissions. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do u colon Gizmo, and then we're going to go ahead and give him read and execution permissions. We're not going to give him write permissions though. All right, and then we're going to do test.txt. All right, now let's go ahead and go back to let's execute our getfacl command again. And here we go. We can still see that the base permissions are the same. We have user, group, and other, but now we have two new things. We have this one right here where it says user gizmo, R and X only. And then we also have one here that says mask. Now, masks it allows you to overwrite permissions for a user's group or others, but does not affect the actual owner. It will override their existing permission. So if their permissions were, RWX, but you only wanted them to have read, even though they were, set at RWX, you would go ahead and set the mask to just R, and then that R is going to override their other permissions, and they're only going to be able to read the file. I'm not going to get into that in this particular case, just because it's a little bit more advanced as far as setting access control lists. Just wanted to be able to give you an introduction into the subject. All right, so we've got that set there. Now, if you want to go ahead and remove, keep in mind, if you want to make changes to it, you're going to issue the tac m and just just input your changes that way. Now, if you want to delete an access control list, that's going to be the setfacl. It's going to be tac b. Then we're going to put in the file name. Perfect. There we go. And that actually deletes it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back up here. We're going to set this same one again. I want to show you something. We're going to execute ls tac l. Now, we can see here that this has changed a bit. Now, there's two things that are different here. One is that it's got this plus sign. That plus sign is going to indicate that there is an access control list here. And we also notice that these permissions are different. It now has the R and the X. And that's because that's what the mask is set at. So when the mask is set, it's going to go ahead and put the mask permissions inside of the group permissions. All right, so if you're not sure exactly what the permissions are, then go ahead and execute the getfacl command, and that's going to go ahead and give you the permissions that are associated with the access control list. All right, and the last one I wanted to go ahead and show you here is say if you were using a directory, and you wanted to apply the permissions to every single file and directories, what would you do is you would actually just do the setfacl command. You would do tac r, or you would do tac r, capital R, because that's going to allow you to make the changes recursively, which means that it will apply to not only to the directory that you're setting it on, but it'll also apply to any directories and files underneath that directory. Just be careful when using that, because you want to make sure that the whole point of access control lists is to control permissions. You don't want to just try to set access control lists and accidentally give them the keys to the kingdom. That's definitely not a good thing. All right, awesome. Yeah, and that pretty much sums up access control lists. They're a very powerful tool. For more information and options, visit the man pages for each command. If you enjoyed this video, check out my one command playlist or this other video instead. And thank you so much for watching my video, and have the greatest of days.